kind of microcosm in some ways of Charlotte in some of these bad contracts. See Hassan Whiteside that are kind of hanging over with the way the Bam has played. But now, unlike Bonnie Tyler, who was always holding out for one, Andy Katz, they have a hero in Miami.
Look, he's a big shot maker, highly confident shooter. Had his moments with Kentucky. One of these players also that didn't have to be the guy, but he picked his spots, especially later into the season. And I don't think you could argue that he thought he would be the 13th player in the NBA draft when he originally was going to go to Wisconsin, then ended up switching to go to Kentucky. So he's a bit of a late bloomer, Brandon. But, it's an interesting pick for Miami here at 13.
I like the pick. I like the versatility. 6'5", can put the ball on the floor. He's more than just a shooter. So I think that is very important that Miami gets some more shooting, get some guys like him. So I really like this pick. I think that Pat Riley got this one right.
Yeah, he can flat out shoot it. And I thought, like what you said, Andy, at times he was a gamer from Kentucky. You know, P.J. Washington was the best player. But I thought for him, he stepped up at times, made shot. He's a good rebounder for his size. And what I love is he took some big shots. He wasn't afraid of the moment, and I think that's what the Miami Heat liked about him.
Tom, when you look at where the Heat are, we know obviously who runs the team. Got a heck of a coach too, but Wade County now officially gone. What county is it now when you look at this team and where they sit with this identity?
It's unknown transition county. There's probably nobody more frustrated with this than Pat Riley. He loves to win more than anybody, or as much as anybody. I was visiting with him recently, and his brain is churning on how to do another leapfrog move where they can free up enough flexibility to go leap everybody, because that is a premium destination for free agents. It's just not as clean as it was back in 2010 when he was able to clear the decks and bring the big three. They're working their way out of that. He's going to have to be careful and disciplined as to what kind of financial commitments he makes to keep that flexibility to do some boom move again. And a player like Herro is a solid player that can just build on that nucleus.
If we don't know where Charlotte is Miami in some sort of no man's land as well?
Well, but they're a glamour destination. Their lifeline can always be free agency. Charlotte doesn't have that. That's why I think Charlotte's in a trickier situation.
Yeah, no offense to Bewood, who does live in the area. There's no Cleveland or Prime 112. I'm sure they're great places.
Don't disrespect Charlotte. Charlotte is a lovely city. Charlotte is a lovely city. I'm glad to call it home.
I think we need to take the time, with no offense to Miami, because it's hard to figure them out, to the team that maybe is the most interesting to try and do that with, and they've got 3 picks beginning with this next one at 14, and that's Boston. Smitty, you go back 2 years ago and think about, and Tom mentioned it, talking about all that, the Danny Ainge style, right? All the stocking of the picks. They had put together a team on that edge. Then to not make the conference final. Kyrie seems to be gone. A lot of yapping from players. Horford now on his way out. Seemingly talks about others, and an unknown for Boston now moving forward.
Yeah, it is. And I think for me is, and everybody said, it was a gamble to take Kyrie for the pick. I thought that was okay, even if you lost Kyrie Irving. What I'm scratching my head is that they might lose Al Horford. Yeah. I thought that was a lock, everybody up here on this panel, just because I thought Al Horford would be there, and you just would have to replace Kyrie Irving. Replacing Kyrie Irving and possibly Al Horford, that's going to be tough to come back from the Boston Celtics. Are they pushing the reset button, or are they still going forward?
Well, I will just say this. Living up in the area and growing up in the area, last year's team was more likable. Not this past season, the one before. When they were young, there wasn't all these expectations, and I almost feel like sometimes they like that role of being sort of under the radar. Now we're going to surprise everyone. And this past season, they just didn't meet it. And all the chirping that was going on, everything you were saying, and it feels like not a complete reboot, but it feels like it's a reset at this juncture.
I think this is what you're going to have to let their younger guys grow into star roles when we talk about guys like Tatum and Brown, possibly Rozier if they don't get any other point guards. So their young guys are going to have to go back and learn what it is to be superstars in this league, what it is to see all the coverage, because Kyrie was a little bit of a shelter this year because he was able to take some of that coverage away, but he also took the ball away from those guys, and they didn't get to play with the ball as much. It takes you a while as a young player to understand what winning basketball is all about, what playoff basketball is all about. I think Boston is going through a mini rebuild. A lot of people are critical of Danny Ainge. I'm not. I think he's done a pretty good job. The only move I would have done a little bit differently, they had a chance, I think, to really go after PG-13 and I think I would have done that. But outside of that, everything else, I agree with what Danny Ainge has done.
It's been a big Duke night. Speaking of Duke, is this Jason Tatum's team now moving forward?
No question.
No question.
Yeah.
Tatum and Brown, we got to see what happens. Do they let Horford go? They sure sent the signals that's what's going to happen, which is a shocker. And then Kyrie leaving, I've thought they should have traded him at the trade deadline because I felt like the chemistry without him was better, and that Tatum and Brown proved that they can carry the team, and it's time to believe that now. It's time to see that and believe it. The challenge here is another one of these situations where it's highly unlikely they have cap room to do a major free agent replacement. So even though they lose Horford, and even though they lose Kyrie, they could get $19 million, but they'd have to let Rozier go and Morris and all these other guys. I just don't think that's likely. They're going to keep who they can and then try to blow up the young guys and see if they evolve. And remember, the East is wide open again. They could, if tooled properly, they could be still a significant player in the East.
And the one name we don't mention, or we haven't yet, is Gordon Hayward. And I think, I think their expectations were too high on him early. To come back from that horrific an injury, it just took time, and maybe it just will take more time before he hopefully could get to his full potential.
Something else about Gordon Hayward is coming back, he came back to an unfamiliar situation. He was used to being the guy that had the ball in his hands a lot, and now he comes to a team where all of a sudden, hey, I'm not the best player. I might not even be the second or the third. He was the fourth option. He really wasn't used to that. Without Kyrie Irving there, maybe he gets more back to handling the ball a little bit more in a pick-and-roll situation, and that gives him a sense of comfort, ability, and normalcy.
Smitty, are you surprised about seemingly the acceptance from Danny and the Celtics that there needs to be this retool? I mean, Kyrie is one thing, but this was a team, the East is wide open, the league's wide open. They had 3 picks in this first round. Are you surprised that it looks like they're going to keep these picks rather than put it into some kind of a Danny Ainge move where you get something bigger?
Well, he might have been trying. He might just couldn't get the pick he wanted. You can't, I'm sure Danny was working and trying, but he might not got it done. But he still has some 3 picks. Yes, they're later. I don't know if it's a mini reboot or not. It's just that we saw a path of the Boston Celtics maybe vying for Eastern Conference Finals at least, or a championship. We don't see that right now, but they still have some talented young players, and also the possibility of Gordon Hayward getting back to all-star level.
Remember
to that point, it's not always, they were trying, and they're always trying. I mean, you think back when they got Ray Allen. I mean, that was a phenomenal move when they made that trade, and it's not easy to make those kind of deals.
Remember this when you talk about the East from the NBA side. Kawhi could go, right, in Toronto. You think about Philadelphia, Jimmy Butler could leave, and then is Tobias the guy they max? Maybe, maybe not. There could be changes there. Milwaukee, Middleton, you're going to have to get paid. Brogdon, you might have to get paid, especially if he gets an offer sheet. People talk about the West being open. The East is wide open right now with the unknowns we have on the rosters.
Yeah, a lot of unknowns, and so that when you have all those unknowns, it's just a different type of situation where as a GM you say, you know what, let's go for it. And we saw Masai do that with Toronto. LeBron's gone. We don't know who the best team's going to be this year. Let's go for it. I think that's what you're going to see, especially with free agency. A lot of the teams that have money, they're going to go for it. We don't know how it's going to shape out. We don't know what it's going to look like, East or West. All we know is the big bad bullies of the NBA are beat up right now. That's the Golden State Warriors. Everybody feels like they have a shot.
There was a time in college basketball that Hoosier basketball were the big bad bullies. But the man sitting to my right, when we were talking about the names and looking at him earlier, said, I love this player.
I do. And I think people were down on him, but I'm with you, Andy. He had a torn ligament in his right thumb, his shooting hand. But he never made an excuse. Went out and played extremely hard. Watched him a lot in the Big Ten. He's very aggressive. He came out as a high pick coming out of high school. The numbers are not there because they didn't win it and they didn't get a chance to show much in the NCAA tournament. But this is a kid that has a lot of talent and played with a torn ligament in his right thumb.
Yeah, I covered a bunch of Indiana games this past season, and I saw there were moments when that motor turned on and he was unstoppable getting to the rim. So he has that in his game. He did not reveal the torn ligament in his thumb for quite some time, and then when it was revealed, he got some sympathy, and rightfully so, because he played through it. Here's the situation, though, where Brad Stevens, going back to the well, going back to a Hoosier in Indiana. He was the best player in Indiana coming out of high school, played for his home state school, and so I think there's some comfort, a little comfort food here for Brad Stevens getting Romeo Langford?
Well, listen, this is a guy that he had a big-time reputation coming out of high school, didn't shoot the ball as well as we thought he would, but like Steve just said, the guy had a torn ligament in his shooting hand. When you have a torn ligament in your shooting hand, it's hard to be an elite-level shooter. So I think this is a very good pick for Boston. I think they got another good young guy to go with that young core, and we'll see how all that mixes in. But I think he's very talented. And when you have somebody, like I said, when you talk about these guys that are that 6'5", 6'6" range, that are versatile, that is what the NBA is all about. I'm going to continue to say it because that's where the league is right now. The more versatility you have, the better you're going to be.
Commercial break free through the lottery, but we break to give you time to chew on this as we await 15 this year. I would say it's been a pretty important number, and today's association is perhaps the two best in all the land a year ago, both picked at 15.